The road ends about 30 kilometers from the Iraqi border, where the Zagros Mountains turn into something closer to a wall. From here, you continue on foot. The path is narrow. The drop, in places, is several hundred feet. And just when you start to wonder whether you've made a mistake coming this way, you turn a corner, and you see it. A village of stone houses, stacked on top of each other in defiance of gravity, clinging to the side of a mountain that should not have a village on it. This is Howraman Takht. It has been inhabited for somewhere between 2,000 and 3,000 years, and almost nobody outside this region knows that it exists. So why does anyone still live here? Why have they always lived here? And what might we lose as, quietly, they begin to leave? The Hawraman region sits in the western fold of the Zagros Mountains. Half of it lies in Iran, in the provinces of Kurdistan and Kermanshah. The other half spills across the border into northern Iraq. For most of recorded history, these were not borders. They were just mountains. The people who live here, the Hawrami, are Kurds, but they speak their own dialect. They call it Hawrami, or sometimes Gorani. It is one of the oldest languages still spoken in this part of the world. Some linguists believe it predates the Persian and Arabic that surround it. You will not find many roads up here. The ones that exist were carved into the mountainsides within the last few decades. Before that, the only way in was by foot or by mule, and in many of these villages, that is still true. In 2021, UNESCO inscribed the Hawraman region on its World Heritage List. The official designation calls it the cultural landscape of Hawramanat. But before any of that, before the heritage status, before the trickle of curious travelers, this was simply where the Hawrami people had always lived. The first thing you cannot stop looking at is the architecture. Houses do not sit beside each other here. They sit on top of each other. The roof of one home becomes the courtyard of the home above it. The wall of one home is the foundation of the next. The whole village is one continuous structure, growing out of the mountain itself. And nobody planned this. There was no architect. There was no blueprint. Just generations of families, each adding their own home to the one their parents built. For 2,000 years. The walls are dry stone. No cement, no mortar, no machines. Each stone has been chosen for the shape of the one it will rest against. A skill passed down from grandfather to grandson, son to son. Look closely at any wall here and you can see, in the way the stones are fitted, the hands of someone who is no longer alive. Why build this way? In a word, terrain. The slope of these mountains is so severe that flat ground does not really exist. You can either build on a 45-degree incline, or you can leave. So, the Hawrami stacked. They terraced. They turned the mountain itself into a kind of staircase, where each step is a person's home. Inside, you find heavy wooden beams holding up flat earthen roofs, small windows, thick walls. A single room is often the entire ground floor of a home, used for cooking, for sitting, for sleeping. Animals live in a stone enclosure below or beside the family. In winter, when snow falls heavy on the upper homes, you can stand on someone's roof and look down at the smoke rising from a dozen chimneys below you, and feel as though you are standing at the top of a frozen wave. It is the kind of place that, once you have seen it, you struggle to believe still exists. There's a reason this region is still talked about by the few who make it up here, and it is not, really, the architecture. The architecture is the doorway. What lives behind it is something else entirely. In the mornings, the village wakes slowly. There is no rush. Smoke begins to rise from the higher houses first, where the women have already started the day's bread. The smell of wood smoke and rising dough drifts down the mountain and meets the cold air rising up from the valley below. For a few minutes, the whole village smells the same. The men go out early to check on the sheep and the goats. Livestock is the backbone of life here. There are no large industries. There are no factories. The economy of Howraman is built on what these mountains will allow you to grow and on what the animals will give you in return. Walnut trees grow on the lower terraces. So do mulberries and pomegranates. In autumn, families gather them by hand, the same way their great-grandparents did. There is no shortcut. There is no machine that can navigate these slopes. There is only the work and the time it takes, and the people willing to do it, and the clothes. If you spend even an afternoon here, you will notice the clothes. Many of the older men still wear the traditional Kurdish dress. loose trousers gathered at the waist with a long cloth belt, a heavy wool jacket, and on their feet, the clash. The clash, sometimes called give, is a handmade shoe with a cotton sole and a soft leather upper, sewn entirely by hand. A single pair can take a craftsman a full week to complete. They are made nowhere else in the world, only here. The women wear long dresses, deep red and gold and green, with patterned scarves. The colors are not decorative. Each one carries meaning. Each village, even each family, has its own way of arranging them. You can tell, if you know how to look, where a person is from just by the way they have tied their headscarf. The day moves slowly. Tea is poured. Bread is broken. Conversation drifts in and out of Hawrami, sometimes into Sorani Kurdish, sometimes into Persian. There is no television sound bleeding in from another room. Most homes here did not have reliable electricity until well into the last few decades. This is what daily life looks like when nothing has been outsourced. When the bread, the shoes, the wool, the food, the very walls of your home are all things that someone you know has made by hand. Most people never see a place like this in their lifetime. Pay attention to this next part because it is the part the brochures leave out. The summer is what brings the rare travelers up here. Warm light, green terraces, the rivers running clear through the valley. It is easy in summer to think of Hawraman as paradise. Winter is different. Winter is what makes this one of the most dangerous inhabited places in Iran. From November through March, snow can fall for days at a time. The narrow mountain roads, the ones that took decades to build, become impassable. Avalanches close them for weeks. Landslides take entire sections of road and drop them into the valley below. For long stretches of the year, the only way in or out of these villages is the way it has always been, on foot, through the snow, often roped together for safety. If something goes wrong here in winter, you cannot call for help in the way you might elsewhere. Help is hours, sometimes days, away. An injury that would be routine in a city becomes serious here. A fire in one of the wooden upper floors of a stacked home is a different kind of fire when the village is one continuous structure and the road to the next town is buried under 5 feet of snow. The people who live here know this. They have always known this. They prepare for winter the way coastal communities prepare for hurricanes. They store food, they cut wood, they check on the elderly, on the women alone with small children, on the homes high enough up the slope that the wind sounds different at night. There are also the kolbars. Along the Iran-Iraq border, in this region and others, you will find Kurdish porters who carry goods across the mountains on their backs. Some are paid. Many are not paid much. They cross these peaks in conditions that would not be permitted on any other kind of job, anywhere in the world. People die doing this work. It is a part of mountain life here that locals talk about quietly. Outsiders rarely understand it well enough to talk about it at all. This is, in part, what people mean when they call Hawraman dangerous, not the people, the geography. If you are someone who cares about places like this, places that exist quietly outside of what the modern world thinks of as the world, consider subscribing. Most of what we make is about people and places that nobody else is filming. But Hawraman is not only what it grows, and what it builds, and what it survives. It is also what it remembers. Each year, in the depth of winter, when the snow is heaviest and the village is hardest to reach, Howraman Takht holds the Pir Shalia ceremony. Pir Shalia was, depending on whom you ask, a Sufi mystic, a healer, a sage, possibly all three. He is said to have lived here many centuries ago. He is said to have brought a kind of spiritual wisdom to these mountains that the village has been keeping alive ever since. For 3 days, men in white tunics gather in the main square of the village. There is daf playing, the slow, deep tone of large Kurdish frame drums. There is dancing in concentric circles. There is the slow, repeated chanting of names, a Sufi practice called zeka. Travelers come from across Iran and Iraq to attend. But the ceremony is not for them. It is for the village. It is the village remembering itself. There is no other ceremony quite like it anywhere else in the country. There is no other place that holds on to this version of Kurdish Hawrami spirituality the way this one does. And every year, the people who can perform it correctly grow older and fewer. This is the quiet emergency at the heart of Hawraman. The young are leaving. They have to. The schools, the universities, the jobs, the hospitals, all of these are in the cities. Tehran, Sanandaj, Kermanshah. A village of 2,000 years cannot pay for itself by being 2,000 years old. So the children grow up and they go, and many of them do not return. When UNESCO listed the region in 2021, it did so not just to celebrate what is here, but to acknowledge, in the careful language of heritage organizations, that what is here is at risk of disappearing. The stones can survive without people. The bread, the shoes, the songs, the language itself cannot. There are stretches of road in Hawraman where you will pass 3 or 4 villages in succession and find no more than a single light on in any of them. The houses are still standing, the doors are still locked, but nobody is home anymore. On the last morning, before the path back down the mountain, you find yourself sitting against a low stone wall, watching the light change on the houses across the valley. The wind is moving through the upper village. Somewhere, a dog is barking. Somewhere else, a child is laughing. A woman is hanging washing on a line strung between 2 roofs. It is a Tuesday or a Wednesday. The day does not really matter here. What you are watching, you slowly realize, is not a tourist attraction. It is not a museum. It is not, despite the brown UNESCO plaque at the entrance to the village, a heritage exhibit. It is a Tuesday morning in a place where Tuesday mornings have looked, more or less like this, for 2,000 years. And that, in a world that updates itself every few seconds, might be the most quietly radical thing left. Hawraman does not need to be saved by outsiders. It is not waiting for that. What it has been doing, for as long as it has existed, is staying. Simply staying. Through dynasties, through empires, through wars whose names are no longer remembered. Through everything. The stones know how to stay. The people who built them knew how to stay. The question is whether their grandchildren will know it too, and whether, when those grandchildren make their decision, there will still be a village left for them to come back to. This channel exists because places like Howraman exist. Quiet places, forgotten communities, ways of life that are not waiting for our attention, but that we may be the last generation that gets to see. If that matters to you, the best thing you can do is keep watching, tell someone about it, and subscribe so that the next time we walk into a place like this, you can come with us.